who are given is becoming big players in industry themselves. So my question, I guess, is like, how do you feel about in the West, there's an indigenous group trying to buy 51% of the Trans Mountain pipeline, and they, I think, have like the funding for it or whatever. They confirm that. How do you feel about like that kind of way of moving forward?
I often say to myself, my elders often say to myself, unless you're in that situation, it's hard to be judgmental.
Yeah.
You know, but when you had First Nations that were not allowed to reap any benefits from the natural resources, are not allowed to reap the benefits of this land, and government and industry had total control of it. You know, if a group of First Nations are prepared to do that and can finance it and provide to the communities, I can't say I'm 100% for it, but I'm definitely not 100% against it either. If all the environmental concerns and regulations and issues around protecting the environment and safeguards of how to deal with any type of spills and stuff like that, I myself as a First Nation person will want to know how they do that. Will want to know how that's going to be done in case of a spill. You know, that would concern me, because first and foremost, once we ruin the environment, it's ruined forever. Nobody's going to benefit from it. So I would have that concern. And I would also have the concern of just what type of benefits are going to become to the communities. What type of impact benefit agreements are going to be signed. Because be assured, no First Nation has the financial resource to do that. They're partnering with somebody. They're partnering with somebody who knows the oil industry, knows the pipeline industry, knows the shipping industry, knows all that. They're partnering with somebody. And you would have to see the full picture before I would say yes or no, I'm against it. But at the same time, one thing with MTI, our 9 communities, if one community wants to do something in particular and the other 8 communities are on the fence about it, they will still support the wishes of that community, because it is respecting the wishes of that community. Because if I go to St. Mary's here, want to do something, I have to go and ask permission. I got to respect their territory, respect them, and so whatever they want to do for their own benefit, I have to respect, even though I might have my own personal opinions or how I think it should happen. And believe me, I would express them, but at the end of the day, it's like talking to my children. You know, I call them my children. Robin Guptawage is 32 years old, and I'll say, you know, I don't like what you're doing. You know, you're being a father, but at the same time, I respect you as an adult. This is my advice. Take it for what it's worth. I hope you take it. If you don't, I respect your decision. And it'd be the same. I use that logic in all my thinking. It's just who I am. But I would be concerned. I would want to know what type of environmental protection plan and everything's in place, because you know, pipelines, mills, they come and go. You know, once the resource is exhausted, they're gone. I look at Repap, the mill is gone. You see some warehouses there. But when you drive by that site in Miramichi, you still smell it. There's a lagoon nobody sees off to the north side of that road. And it's 10 acres in size, and it's still there. And this is always the problem I have with industry. Come in, take all the resources, go out, leave the mess. And who's going to clean that up? It's similar to the tar ponds in Sydney. You know, it's sitting there, it stinks, you smell it every day when you go by there. So their footprint's still there, even though they left. So, yeah, that's my thinking.
So, closer to the beginning of your presentation, you were talking about that piece of land that was 900 hectares, I think you said?
Yes, yeah.
And that you guys had been doing more selective cutting and then letting the trees regenerate naturally. And then you had said that the land was worth threefold what it would have been worth if you were doing it the clear.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So thinking about the urbans, for instance, or big forestry, whatever. So they clear cut, they scarify, they plant, they have all this equipment, all this money going into it. And so do you think that because they're like set in that thinking that they will never kind of go over to the other way? Because like obviously their main thing is like to make money. right? So you think that if you can make more money doing it that way, and it's better for the environment and whatever, and you think that that would be a way to go, but do you think that's because they're more set in that way, because they've already invested all this money into that, so they don't want to like look like it's going the other way or something?
What got to be understand here with respect to industry is that when industry goes in there and scarifies the ground and plant it and all that, it's not them paying for it. So taxpayers paying for it. That's all subsidized by government. The only time, like the Irvins of this world, actually put money in their ground is in their own industrial freehold. But if you travel down up in the Deersdale area, you go down that road, one side is Irvin ground, the other side is Crown land. Look at the difference of how they treat both. Very little clear cutting on their own freehold. All the clear cutting's happening on Crown. They're going to be, there's coming the day that, and it's sooner than you think, because I was at a DERD this afternoon with the Deputy Minister, and they're talking about commercial thinning. A lot of the plantations are coming, they're ready. A lot of the black spruce stands, a lot of the areas that were silvicultured one way or the other, PCT, over the last 30 years, they're coming into rotation. But what's frustrating for First Nations, they'll call a 40-year-old plantation as a mature stand. You know, we all know a mature stand when it comes to spruce is a 120-year-old tree, 140-year-old tree, so it's not a mature tree. But they call it a mature stand, it's ready for harvesting. I think they're going through a new forest management development plan right now, and I think they're going to start gearing away the amount of clear cutting that's happening, and they're going to move into more selective shelterwood cutting because of these plantations. There's one thing I noticed with respect to how these plantations are coming. There's definitely seems to be more wood out there on these plantations if you manage them right. Because like I was saying, for every dollar we put in yield ground, that's 900 hectares, we got out $6. And it's because we went in and took out a third of the basal area, a third of the basal area, a third of the basal area. So, and it's still allowed. Mushroom picking, all that kind of stuff, because you're maintaining the crown closure. So still allow a lot of that other products to grow. But it's gearing more towards that from what I'm reading. But no, industry does clear cuts because it's the cheapest way to do it. But don't be misled by the fact that all of a sudden they got machines in there, they got planting crews in there. That 1,800 trees that a poor planter is planting every day to make $100, poor bugger, but they're just working them to death. They got to plant 1,800 trees a day, I think, to make $100, and then get taxed to death on that. So you're making what, $75? That's all subsidized by government. All that stuff's subsidized. It comes from the taxpayer. Irvin's not taking that out of his pocket. Nope. Nope. So they like you think that because it's all their PR stuff. It's all saying that.
Yeah. Well, I actually worked for them for the last 2 years in the summertime. Not going to anymore, but.
No.
Yeah, it's, I learned a lot about what.
No, mind you, they're masters at what they do. They wouldn't be survived. They know what they're doing. They're you know, any industry, any contractor, anybody, they master their trade, right? That's how they survive. But one thing really gets to me, how naive the public is when it comes to the PR that comes out of Irvin. There was what, this past summer, the spring before, we planted more trees than there are trees in the forest. Remember that statement? You remember that?
Yeah.
But yet, if you're any type of a manager, you know darn well, when you go and plant trees, there's a certain number they want to meet. 1,800 to 3,200 stems per hectare.
Right now it's 1,800.
Yeah, and that's on softwood?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you go in there and you know you do your timber cruise or you do your first assessment and you count, you know, 7 or 8, 9 trees in a plot to get that 1,800. When you first went in there and did your initial survey, you might count 40 wild trees. So how the frig, I use frig very usually. So how the frig can they say they planted more trees than what was there naturally? It's hogwash.
Yeah.
But the public believes it. It's ridiculous.
And all those signs that they put up, right?
Well, I noticed they changed the one coming out of Fredericton. You know, when you come up that, I think you're just coming into where the boys, up a Boys Town School is. They had that sign there. It used to be about the salmon. Cast, they changed that, eh? Yeah, that's gone. It's now about sustainable management. They got rid of the cast because of, and if anybody wants to see that picture, I'll show you what I mean. But they changed that because of this bugger. There's no way I can get this up on the screen, but I don't think. Because of the...
Yeah, you could email it to yourself. Yeah.
Because of this bugger. There's one of those cast salmon.
Oh my God.
That's the new salmon.
Holy crap. What happened to him?
He was put in a research pen and left there for 4 years.
Oh. All of them are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's hundreds of them.
Oh my God.
Look at it. It looks like they got a head on it like a dolphin.
Yeah. Oh my God.
If anybody wants to see it, but here's the tag. They said, "Oh no, you never caught one of those."
It's tagged. Oh my gosh. It says cast UMB at UMB.
Yeah.
Fortunate.
And they said we didn't catch that in the river.
Because they weren't supposed to.
Weren't supposed to release them.
No.
They said we didn't catch it in the river. What's that in the background? Anderson's Bridge.
Well, they thought you broke in and took.
Oh, they thought we broke in. I said no. So I was asked by both the Irvins in Cook and the researcher up there heading it.
Yeah.
What did you do with it? I said it ain't swimming no more. Because we already told them if we get wind that those salmon are being released, I'll catch every damn one of them and destroy them. Because it will have an effect on the wild stock. They said they're sterile, but we opened up this one. It's not sterile. Full of eggs. The eggs were ready. The row was that long on them, on her. Yeah, so it was full of eggs.
You have said something about the hatch salmon, and you said you knew they were not going to come back, and the scientists were like thinking they will still swim back. Given those two opposing views, do you think there is a common ground for indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge, like to be able to actually solution it both indigenous and scientific?
Well, absolutely. If they approach us after the offset of these ideas, like this is what we've been saying for the longest time. Anytime there's a conceived idea on any research project or any initiative, come to the communities and ask, what do we know about it? What do we know about the salmon? What do we know about sturgeon? Like sturgeon, like people don't realize, like everybody equates First Nations with salmon. That salmon was our primary food staple. But salmon only became our primary food staple because of the log drives. The log drives ruined the sturgeon habitat. So we lost the sturgeon in the river. Sturgeon was one of our primary food staples, even before salmon was. But you know, yes, I think this is what First Nations have been saying for a long time. Definitely been saying it louder recently, is that IK knowledge coming to the indigenous communities will definitely, number one, save you a lot of money, and number two, build the partnerships in the cooperation with the First Nations to make sure if and when such projects go ahead that everybody's been involved in that development. One example is, there's a couple examples. One of the most recent one was the earthquake in Japan. When that earthquake happened in Japan, the Earth axis actually slipped, tilted about a 0.5 of a degree. And of course, the scientist knew something happened because that was a substantial earthquake. The Eskimos, the Inuit up north, noticed the difference in the amount of sunrise. Noticed the difference in the sunset, in the sunrise, and told them that it shifted. And that part of climate change was that 1 or 2 degrees difference all of a sudden in the north was the result of that axis shifted. And the indigenous people were saying it 3 years prior to when science proved it.